Dear Wage Gap, we don't need you anymore, and quite honestly, we never did. Thanks, women everywhere. A presentation brought to you by Jesse Teagarden. You may be wondering, what exactly is the wage gap? According to OECD, the gender wage gap is unadjusted and is defined as the difference between median earnings of men and women relative to the median earnings of men. This definition doesn't include women of color, the LGBTQ community, which is also affected in different ways. Women are almost half the workforce. They receive more college and graduate degrees than men, yet on average, women continue to earn considerably less than men. In 2017, female full-time, year-round workers made only 80 cents per every dollar earned by men, a gender wage gap of 20%. Women, on average, earn less than men in nearly every single occupation for which there is sufficient earning data for both men and women to calculate an earnings ratio. In middle-skilled occupations, workers in jobs mainly done by women earned only 66% of workers in jobs mainly done by men. Outright discrimination in pay, hiring, or promotions continues to be a significant feature of working life. So let's do the math. If we take the women's average earning and divide it by men's average earnings, we get the ratio of how much women make compared to men. The average amount for a woman is $41,554. If we divide that by the average amount a man makes, $51,640, we get 80.47, which is about 80%. To find the average pay gap, you take the men's average income and subtract the woman's average income and divide it again by men's average income. This comes out to be about 19.53, which is roughly 20%. Women have made tremendous strides during the last few decades by moving into jobs and occupations previously done almost exclusively by men. Yet during the last 2 decades, there has been very little further progress in the gender integration of work. In some industries and occupations, like construction, there has been no progress in 40 years. This persistent occupational segregation is the primary contributor to the lack of significant progress in closing the wage gap. Intersectionality is a concept used to critically examine how gender discrimination is affected by race and other social disadvantages that include albinism, discrimination against people with disabilities, homophobia, transphobia, age, and class. Without an intersectionality framework, the gender pay gap reproduces gender inequalities. White elite women may get a little bit further ahead with such a myopic view, but the system of patriarchy remains unchanged. White feminism describes feminist practices that ignore, erase, and silence race in scholarships and activism. White feminism also undervalues the history, contributions, and experiences of women of color in advancing women's rights. It shows how white women benefit from and are complicit in racism and class inequality through their behaviors and attitudes or through inaction. White women who pay no mind to leaving out race from discussions of pay effectively want to be excused from racism. These white women refuse to see that racism doesn't need their active participation. Just because they aren't yelling racial epithets at every street corner does not mean that white women aren't benefiting from racism. Inaction helps just as much. If you don't act, nothing changes, at least not for the better. The average pay gap for the American country is about 80%, but for different races it varies and has a different pay grade based on the race that they're in. So what can we do to change the status quo? We can raise the federal minimum wage immediately. We can encourage women to develop negotiation skills in the workforce. We can also encourage women to discuss their pay with coworkers. We can pass additional wage inequality legislation. We can speak out against the wage gap. We can encourage all genders to help women succeed in the workplace and pass paid family leave policies. We can also ensure access to affordable health care, and obviously, we can smash the patriarchy. Thank you.